that. There's a life raft from the Edmund Fitzgerald. Isn't that incredible to see? Schooner Niagara. Look at the size of that. How does that not give you goosebumps? If we had 2 minutes more, every man would have been saved. Check that out.
A freighter carrying a crew of 29 disappeared on Lake Superior during a severe storm last night, and so far, no survivors have been found. The freighter, the Edmund Fitzgerald, was transporting iron ore when it ran into high winds and 25-foot waves.
Alrighty guys, can you tell where I am today? I am at one of the top Michigan tourist attractions, the Shipwreck Museum here in Paradise, Michigan. I'm in paradise. Well, I don't know if this is paradise, but we're here at the Shipwreck Museum, and today I want to show you what they have here. They have a bunch of things from the Edmund Fitzgerald. That's what I'm really interested in seeing. And we're gonna go to the lookout point. We're gonna talk a little bit about what's here, and we're gonna check it out. So come with me today, let's go see. Alrighty, we are going inside the museum. It is super busy today. Check that out. There's a Fresnel lens, of course from lighthouses, on loan to the Great Lakes Shipwreck from Gull Island Lighthouse, Northern Lake, Michigan. Look at that Fresnel lens. Isn't that incredible? And if you look right behind it, look up. I'll tell you about that one, but that's another lens right there. Oh guys, check that out. White Shoal lens, a life-saving beacon for 75 years. This second order Fresnel lens was originally located in Northern Lake, Michigan, 20 miles west of the Straits of Mackinac, and warned sailors of the treacherous shallows known as White Shoal. Replaced in 1983 by a more modern beacon, this lens is now on permanent loan to the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum. Look at that. That is what would warn ships and sailors. That's incredible. And there's a replica, a model of the White Shoal Lighthouse. Check that out. Journey back in time. Investigating the remains of the SS Independence. To touch a shipwreck is to feel the pulse of our maritime past. Depicted here are divers of the Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society. Right there, can you see it? Investigating the actual hull of the 1853 shipwreck, the SS Independence. Now, recovered timbers and other information lend valuable clues to early Great Lakes vessel construction. And look at all that aged wood, and there's a display to show divers diving down to the Independence. That's very neat to see. Schooner Niagara, built in 1872 and it sank in 1897. Look at that. Just look at the age on that. Wow, all these items here could sure tell a story. There is an anchor from the same ship as the Belle. That's Schooner Niagara. the size of that. Wow. That is so incredible. You don't realize the size of these until you actually see. When you see me beside it, even that, it's hard to see the just how large these anchors are. They're huge. Check it out when I actually scan around the room, guys. You can see it's not a massive room by any means, but it's pretty impressive to see what they have here on display. That's the room. Okay, let's keep moving on. Marquette, November 23rd, 1891 at 2 a.m. On the morning of November 22nd, the Mather was struck on the starboard quarter by the Canadian steel steamer Brazil. They had 58,000 bushels of grain en route from Duluth to Buffalo, and the Mather sunk in 185 feet of water. Women all lost their personal belongings, but managed to get into a lifeboat. Just imagine, you're looking at shipwreck items that were recovered. It's pretty incredible. And there's the Samuel Mather right there. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, or Mather, but Samuel Mather, 1887. Wow. I don't realize all the ships that have gone down. The tragedy and the irony, the loss. The wooden steamer Myron, with barge Mystic in tow, carrying lumber, sails from Munising in a gale typical of that month, whose weather has already claimed several ships. At 4:20, the Myron is dead in the water, powerless. Now the captain orders the crew into lifeboats, but elects to stay with the ship, which sinks within minutes, 3 miles short of Whitefish Point, where we are, and 1.5 miles from shore. Now the captain is discovered and saved the next day 20 miles away, having clung to a section of the Myron's pilot house, which was battered loose as the ship succumbed to the waves. And there you can see, there's the Myron's builder's plate. There's a photo of the Myron, and that's incredible. Here's Lake Superior's worst collision. 29 lives lost on Superior City. On the clear evening of August 20th, 1924, miles southeast of Whitefish Point, confused passing signals resulted in a disaster. The downbound ore-laden Superior City was rammed, and the captain's alarm signal rang just 2 minutes before the crash. If we had 2 minutes more, every man would have been saved. Check that out. And you can see there's the wheel, and there's divers on Superior City. And there's a model of Superior City out of Duluth, Minnesota. Downbound off Whitefish Point, the 420-foot ore carrier was steaming through thick fog on the morning of July 12, 1909, when out of the fog, on a collision course, appeared the Isaac M. Scott. With a sickening crash, the cow was struck broadside and sank within 3 minutes. Look at that. Look at that. Items recovered from the cowl. And there's, look at John B. Cowell. There's the builder's plate from the cowl. 14 crew members were lost. You guys, one of the most famous shipwrecks, well, the most famous on the Great Lakes is, of course, the Edmund Fitzgerald. Now, Gordon Lightfoot did an amazing song about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, but here they have Edmund Fitzgerald artifacts that I just had to come here and check out and show you. There it is right there, the Edmund Fitzgerald. My grandfather had a similar painting, and it was his favorite painting. A Voyage to Eternity. In calm seas on November 9th, 1975, they departed the western Lake Superior port of Superior, Wisconsin, fully loaded with 29,000 tons of pellets destined for the Great Lakes Steel Company near Detroit. The 729-foot Fitzgerald and all her 29 crewmen had made their last port of call less than 29 hours from that moment. And 17 years after her gala christening, the Fitzgerald was all aboard would lie twisted and broken in the cold waters off Whitefish Point. The final message. 7:10 p.m., November 10th, 1975, Lake Superior was writhing in the worst storm veteran Great Lakes sailors had experienced in more than 30 years. We haven't got far to go. We will soon have it made. Yes, we will. It's a hell of a night for the Whitefish beacon not to be operating. It sure is. By the way, how are you making out with your problems? We are holding our own. Okay, fine. I'll be talking to you later. Captains McSorley and Cooper and First Mate Clark. This was the last radio transmission from the Fitzgerald. And check that out. Look at that. There's a life raft from the Edmund Fitzgerald. Isn't that incredible to see? Now, the wreckage sits 17 miles northwest of Whitefish Point, where we are, and 29 lives lost. There you can see the massive scale of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Now, on November 15, 1975, the broken remains of the Fitzgerald were located. The site is now known as the graveyard of the Great Lakes. Now, these are artifacts from the lifeboat of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Look at that. These were actually on the lifeboat. Okay, one of the things I had to see while I was here, just besides the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald and the life raft, was the bell. Let's check out the bell. There's the bell right there. Oh, you're fine. Isn't that incredible to see, you guys? Now, I'll tell you a little bit about the story of them raising the bell and them putting down a replica bell, but it's just incredible. Look at that. Now, on July 4th, 1995, 17 miles northwest of Whitefish Point, a diver wearing a special atmosphere diving suit cut the last stanchion that secured the Edmund Fitzgerald's bell to the pilot house. And there's the newt suit right there. Slowly, gracefully, this 195-pound bell ascended 500 feet to the surface, welcomed by the daylight of a summer afternoon. Now, for family members in attendance that day, the raising of the bell signaled the beginning of a memorial and closure to 20 years of grief.
Water stays for many hours using blowtorches to unfasten the bell from its place in the pilot house.
You guys ready to pull this home?
With family members looking on from a short distance, they certainly were.
Pumping about water now.
To see that, just unreal. Now, a replica bell inscribed with the names of the 29 crewmen was lowered in its place as a permanent grave marker. Finally, we had our funeral. It's a grave now. There is no reason why anyone should have to dive.
It'll be replaced with this replica, inscribed with the 29 names as a permanent grave marker.
And for those wanting to dive, they can't. There's a law in place that does not allow you to dive to the wreck of the Fitzgerald because it is a grave. It's the graveyard of the Great Lakes. But that's the bell right there. Imagine that was raised and sat, went down that November night with the Fitzgerald. How does that not give you goosebumps? Alrighty guys, there's more to see. I wouldn't come here and not see the view from Whitefish Point. Let's go check out the view. Alrighty guys, we're right out near the lookout point here at Whitefish, but I wanted to show you something else for the Edmund Fitzgerald, especially because I've done Gordon Lightfoot vlogs and I've shown you so many Gordon Lightfoot sculptures. Now check this out. This is the graveyard of the Great Lakes. There's, right there is the sculpture from a Canadian artist, and it focused on Gordon Lightfoot's song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. That was the inspiration for this. And as you can see right here, it says Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And how many bells are on there? Of course, 29 bells. And the Mariners Church in Detroit. In a rustic old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald.
And you can see right there, there says Gordon Lightfoot. Now he was an honorary member of the Shipwreck Museum. That's right there.
Gordon Lightfoot had a large impact on the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum in the UP. He visited in 2015 for the 40th anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Lightfoot went a day early to meet with the family members of the Fitzgerald's crew. The museum executive director says Lightfoot was a gracious and down-to-earth person.
Alrighty, now we're right down by the beach here in the water. And I'm turning off the camera because it's warm out and I'm actually going into the water. But it was so cool to see that. Now, really crazy to think about how many ships were lost right off Whitefish Point here, right in these calm waters. So beautiful out here. Everybody's enjoying the day, but imagine it being November. The storms are right on Lake Superior. You're in a ship, and yeah, it'd be like night and day. But I'm really glad I got to see the Shipwreck Museum here. It's one of the top tourist attractions in all of Michigan. And I'm glad that you guys came along. Now, one of the highlights for me was definitely the Edmund Fitzgerald bell, some of those artifacts from the Edmund Fitzgerald, but more so just learning how many ships have been lost in the Great Lakes and right off of Whitefish. But I always like to say life is like a book, and I want to read it with you. So like I said, I'm going into the water now. I'm so glad you guys came along with me today. Hit that like and subscribe button. We will go on more adventures together. Until next time, guys, it's your friend Chris. Peace.